What it do, guys? It's your boy O2, and you know I'm back doing the most on this podcast episode. I think it's episode 7, right? And guess what, guys? I am a Sony enthusiast, loyalist. I've been here since day one, guys. Today's episode is ultimately about Sony and PlayStation and the evolution of PlayStation, guys. So, if you're an Xbox person, and if you're a PlayStation person, I'm not going to lie, you may learn something today. I've learned a little bit myself, and I'm just wanting to share it with you guys. So if you enjoyed this episode, please drop a like, leave a comment if you feel so inclined, and please share this with a friend, man. We're trying to run that subscriber count up, get to 500, and ultimately to 1,000 subscribers. Oh, that word's hard to say, but to become a Fortnite affiliate, you have to have 1,000 followers on some kind of platform. I want it on YouTube, guys. I know the YouTube dream is still alive, but nonetheless. And one more plug, guys. I am also a thriller fiction author. That's right. I write books. Fake books. Fiction is fake. And that's what I love about it, is the liberties I get to take with storytelling. Links can be found down in the comments below this video. So if you're on a mobile device, you can scroll right below the video, hit the description. The description will pop up, and below at the very bottom there'll be blue links. They'll send you all to Amazon. There's 5 links. I've got 5 books out for sale, even though I have written 6, and I've started on my 7th one. Be sure to check them out, guys. While you're watching this, if you're watching it on the television, check it out on your phone. But anyways, the evolution of the PlayStation. So we want to go way back. We want to go back to the history, guys, of why did PlayStation even become a thing? Well, here's the thing. Y'all know Nintendo's been around for decades. One of the oldest video game companies out there, especially when you talk about video game consoles and stuff that in-home. So, used to you have to go to arcades, bring a bag full of quarters, put them in the slot machine, and play your little, in the arcade with your buddies. You ran out of quarters, you were shit out of luck. So, people got together, rich game developers, people were wanting to bring the arcade to the house, and I don't blame them. It was one of the best and worst things they ever did. But Nintendo and Sony actually were trying to create a company together, and it fell out. Sony and Nintendo fell out. Now, I didn't look up the exact year, but because of this falling out, Sony wanted to seek revenge, literally. Go look it up for yourself. Wanted to seek revenge for Nintendo and created their own company, what we know now as PlayStation, to own the market, and ultimately they are owning the market. Every time a PlayStation drops, it's cheaper than the latest Xbox. I think they run better. They last longer. They're more compatible with other devices and stuff versus an Xbox. And I can speak on Xbox. I grew up with my cousin. He was an Xbox guy. I've played the Xbox, the 360, I've even touched an Xbox Series X. Not my thing, man. They feel like computers. I'm not going to lie. They feel like computers, and the newer they get, they're becoming computers. And I know they're all computers technically, but nonetheless, PlayStation came into fruition because of a fallout with Nintendo. Ain't that something, guys? Wow. Well, and PS1 was their biggest and boldest move coming out on the market in Japan of December 3rd of 1994. It would not hit North America in U.S. stores until September 9th, 1995. So almost a year surpassed. Sony had to test this out and see if it was going to work. Now, they made, as I know of, that's why I'm open for you connoisseurs and history buffs out there to leave it in the comments and school me on stuff that I don't know. But they made 2 different kinds of PlayStation 1s. They had the boxy one, and I don't know which one was the original. They had the boxy one that was about this size, the push button, the power. I had the little one, the one that was about that big and rounded on the edges. You had to push the side to open it. And ultimately, Sony, one of the things was Nintendo wasn't really as worried about because Nintendo, you think you put a freaking piece of plastic in and it's got the little I don't know a lot of electrical things. I'm not an electrical guru, but they wanted to get into the CD-ROM department early. So, and yeah, like I said, 1995, and I got it shortly after. I was very young when I got the PS1. Uh, and you had games like Legend of Zelda, you had the Spyro the Dragon, Resident Evil debuted, Metal Gear Solid debuted, the first Gran Turismo debuted on PlayStation, Crash Bandicoot, guys. These classic games. I even remember playing Frogger on PlayStation, man. You had these classic games, these three-dimensional games that were fun to play, some kind of 2D-ish, but for the most part, three-dimensional games that brought the arcade to the house, and the name fit, PlayStation, man. So, and it's still going strong today. I don't see them ever dropping out of the market. In fact, they're about to own the console market here in a few years once Xbox turns into let's admit it, a PC. But let's see real quick. Little bit of stats about what was designed in it. So it ran on a custom designed CPU called the R3000A. It was a 32-bit RISC processor, guys, manufactured by LSI Logic. Its dedicated graphics processing unit, it was handled by a 3D graphics rendering. So it was like the best of its time. Doing pretty good. But it didn't stop there, guys. It took a few years, but in development came the PlayStation 2, guys. Yes, the black box. And then for the later people, the younger folks, the PlayStation 2 Slim, the little slim PlayStation. That was a lot more flimsier, easier to move around and bring to your friend's house and all your memory cards. It debuted in Japan on March 4th of 2000 and did not reach U.S. stores until October of the same year, the 26th of October. It hit U.S. stores, and it took the world by storm. This was definitely a step up from PS1. The games were a little more in-depth. The graphics were better. Gameplay was better. I remember it. It ran on a custom emotion engine system. It went from a 32-bit to a 128-bit processor. It had a graphics synthesizer and a 4 megabyte embedded RAM, guys. 4 megabytes, guys. That wouldn't save me an Oblivion game on PS5, most likely. But for the PS2, it worked, guys, and it worked well, man. I remember getting my PS2 and being so freaking thrilled. I remember seeing like the blue squares all come up, three-dimensional like. Every PlayStation that's ever come out, the music is so soothing. The music alone could put you to sleep, but you're ready to game. So, my wife's not a PlayStation connoisseur. She didn't grow up. She grew up with like more old school games like Nintendo and stuff like that. So she has. I'm speaking Japanese to her, literally. But when we think of PS2, guys, we think of Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas. I would even dare say Vice City. The God of War franchise debuted on PS2. See, the graphics were good enough that they were able to make, like characters that you could actually see. Metal Gear Solid, I want to say the third one came out, Shadow of the Colossus. Y'all remember that, guys? Shadow of the Colossus came out on PS2. And so many more games, guys. I remember playing all the Need for Speeds that were out at the time. I was big into racing. Of course, Gran Turismo dropped in every console. They started having their exclusives, but they didn't get huge on their exclusive games until the PS3, guys. The PS3 was probably one of the biggest jumps, aside from we'll be moving on to the PS4 in about 5 or so minutes. But the PS3, man, it debuted November 11th, 2006, guys. And you got to remember, this is the same year that I believe Oblivion, Elder Scrolls Oblivion popped up or debuted. And then a week later, literally, November 17th of 06, it hit U.S. stores, guys. And the PS3, man, I remember going into GameStop, guys, and playing like the demo of Uncharted. it was a PlayStation exclusive. I remember seeing just it was like the Claritin Clear commercial. Taking the film off your glasses. The PS2 was great, fine, but it was, man, the graphics were like putting on glasses or like removing film from your eyes. The graphics were great. They were crystal clear on the. Remember, I had an LCD screen, a liquid crystal display. Some of y'all were on the plasmas. I know y'all were. Those plasma burnt up and got hot. The LCD stayed cooler for longer. But with the PS3, guys, we had exclusives like Uncharted series, like Uncharted 2, Among Thieves. We had the Infamous series, guys. That was such a fun and original type game. A superhero that he was infamous, but he got hit with electricity and he was able to, absorb. How you absorbed health was absorb electricity from electrical units or anything that had electricity running through it. You could use static to float. You could go across, what would you call it, the power lines. You name it, there was all kinds of things to do. The Last of Us debuted on PS3. Now the PS3, a little backstory on it. It was so Blu-ray was introduced. Sony was pushing the envelope. Not only Blu-ray, guys, had the 6-axis. Now a lot of people were pissed off when PS3 first came out because they took the vibration function out of the controllers. Do y'all remember that, guys? When PS3 first debuted in the States, there was no, the controller was way lighter in the handles. They had no vibration function, but they were introducing the 6-axis. So you're on PlayStation, you're playing Uncharted, you cross that log, you had to use the controller. Sorry, guys, that I can't talk at the time. You had to use the controller to balance the guy. I think you could use it in racing games. There were certain instances where you could use it, but hey, the customers were not happy. They wanted their vibrations. They wanted that extra, what they were getting in PS1 and PS2 back in the PS3. And even though the PS3 did have it had that wireless function. That's where PS3 went wireless with their controllers. I think they used 6-axis as a way to be like, hey, this is going to be good enough, but the customer said no, so they ended up incorporating, I don't know how many years down the road. It wasn't too long. They reintroduced vibrating controllers back into the PS3 market. It was, I feel, a few years later than that, guys. But I'm sure some of you guys remember that. Comment down below if you remember the 6-axis controllers without the vibration function. But it ran on a cell broadband engine with a multi-core used by Sony. Well, it was developed by 3 different companies: Sony, Toshiba, and IBM. It had a 7 synergistic processing element system with 6 available for game usage, which made it a lot bigger to be able to play bigger games and to run the graphics engine at the time, one of the Unreal engines and some other engines that are not as popular or well known. But we got so many. I forgot Red Dead Redemption debuted on PS3 too. Remember that, guys? That was crazy. And with these PlayStation exclusives, because Microsoft was doing the same thing, you had game developers owned by Sony, such as Naughty Dog. You had Santa Monica Studios, God of War. You had Insomniac Records, or whatever it was called, and Polyphony Digital, which is for Gran Turismo. So you had all these game developers. I'm sure there's some more out there, but those are the ones that come off the top of my head that were pushing the envelope on the graphics. I would say Naughty Dog runs the game in graphics. Nobody done it better than Uncharted. Naughty Dog pushed the envelope on the graphics. No other. You can't tell me, and you cannot name an Xbox game that looks better than Uncharted 4, which we're about to get to, guys. But PS3 was a great console, man. I had the big chunky one. So funny story for me, I've always had the big chunky PlayStations. So I had it with the Spider-Man font, that silver font. It was rounded on the top. It was like kind of almost shiny black plastic. It had the little flap on it with 3 different chips you could put in it, memory chips, things that you could put photos and stuff. You could change your background and stuff. It really opened the door for a lot of stuff to be able to do beyond just play games. It kind of made it, remember Home? Home was that free online thing that you could get on and meet with people. You had like a created avatar. So there was a huge leap. But I dare say that PS4 was just as big of a leap from PS2 to PS3 as PS3 to PS4. And I say this, guys, because while they might have done, for the most part, away with 6-axis during the PS4 days, and it debuted in Japan on February 22nd of 2014, which is funny, guys, because this is the only console where Japan got released in Japan. It's I don't think Sony is in Japan, located the headquarters. It got released. Geez. I don't know. It seems like so. Let me just read it off for you guys. It first hit North America, the United States, November 15th, 2013, guys. Y'all remember that. Then in Europe, it hit 29th of the same year. So it hit almost half a month later at the end of the month. And then next year, February 22nd of 2014, it hit Japan, guys. So they knew their market was over in the West, man. We have a lot of gamers over here. The U.S. is full of gamers. Not to say gamers aren't all across the globe. Everybody games across the globe. But they kept the Blu-ray. Again, a little bit on it. It ran on a semi-custom accelerated processing unit, guys. Developed by AMD in partnership with Sony. So Sony has had people come in and help them build. The CPU was an 8-core 86 by 64 AMD Jaguar processor. It was an AMD Radeon-based graphics engine using the graphics core next-gen architecture. This shift to the 86 architecture made the PS4 hardware much more similar to a standard PC. So, I mean, it really did. It opened the door to a lot of things, like the PlayStation Store. I could sit here and talk way too long. We're going to try to keep these episodes roughly 30 minutes, guys. But it made the game. I feel like each time the storage space has gotten better. And the graphics was a touch different than the PS3. The PS4 graphics engine did. I know the Unreal Engine has kind of ran the market for the most part. Along with some other less well-known graphics engines, but it was ahead of its time, so to speak. So much so that if you still own a PS4 today, I know it kind of doesn't seem like it, but you can still play Fortnite. You can still play a lot of games, even online, even though it's way past the 7-year, because Sony does the 7-year lifespan for a console. That's when they feel the need to do an update. Do a console, and I've just skipped over something, but I'll finish it once I finish talking about the PS4. You get games like Ghost of the Tsushima, whatever that Ghost game, a Japanese game. You had Horizon, the Horizon game, Uncharted 4. You had Bloodborne, and many others, guys. Many others. I remember with the Shadows of Mordor. It was a Lord of the Rings game, because back at PS2 or 3, they come out with some kind of actual Lord of the Rings game, and it was fun, but it was garbage. Shadows of Mordor was amazing, guys. It was fun, and again, it was like putting on even better glasses than the PS3. It was so crystal clear. The gameplay mechanics were even better and more realistic. Like I said, especially in 2013, 2014, it was ahead of its time, guys. Yeah, people say, oh, the 360 was beating everything out. No, it was not, and Xbox Series X was not. Microsoft people, quit lying to yourselves, guys, to make yourself feel better. I feel like Xbox people have some big ego, small man complex that they feel like they've got to be the best. Bill Gates sucks, guys. Let's be honest. Bill Gates, let's get a little political. You want to get a little political? Bill Gates, we won't even go there, but he was a part of the vaccine bullshit, guys. But I won't go any further than that. But PS4 was a fun console, man. There were so many games. Out of all the systems, the most games I probably had on a system was either the PS2 or PS3. Probably PS3. The PS2 was a close second. I had quite a few on PS4 and PS5. The games have gotten more expensive, guys. They went from, I remember, $40, $50, $60, now $70, guys. They went up. But I understand. bigger games, more to do. It's going to cost more. It costs more to pay the developers to make this stuff. It's going to cost more to play. But we had the PS5, and everybody knows the shortage. If you didn't, you were one of the hoarders of the PlayStation 5, guys. PS5 debuted on November 12th, 2020. I remember my dad was going to get it for me for Christmas, and he was going to give me his credit card and be like, hey, go get you and your brother one for Christmas. You couldn't find them anywhere, guys. Could not find them anywhere. This was the same time when COVID was hitting, guys. The global experiment to see how we would react to a culture shift. See how we as humans could be controlled by the elite. I don't care how you want to paint it. For the liberals out there, I'm sipping tea in your hood. But a PS5 brought back the 6-axis, so there are certain games. Gran Turismo, you can do the driving thing, turn. They brought 6-axis back. They still have the vibrating controllers. The controllers, they've just consistently been making them better. The Blu-ray is still there, guys. Unlike Xbox, Blu-ray just I think this is that element, one of the key elements that makes the game look better, the screen look better. The movies, there was at one point Blu-ray movies actually had like additional features that your regular HD videos did not have at the time. But PS3, or not PS3, we're on PS5, guys. So PS5 runs on a custom AMD chip with an accelerated processing unit that combines the CPU and the GPU at the same time. So the CPU is a custom 8-core AMD Zen 2 processor with a variable frequency up to 3.5 gigahertz. The GPU, a custom AMD RDNA 2-based graphics engine. It provides 10.28 T-flops of power and featuring hardware accelerating ray tracing. So it's able to pixelate. I used to know the math on the pixels. It was insane. The frame rate has gone up, the frame per second. It also includes a crucial custom system solid state drive for ultra fast loading. The loading screens are not very long unless some kind of server is going haywire. And data streaming. It made streaming so much easier. Not to say PS4 didn't. Like I said, PS4 was ahead of its time. PS5 definitely took a step ahead in that quicker loading screens, loading in general. As Google said, it's a core part of the system's performance. You want fast. You want to be able to play games. You want to be able to broadcast. You want to be able to do whatever you want to do. Content create, game to have fun. PS5 is where it's at, and you get games like God of War Ragnarok. You get that. There's a newer Ratchet and Clank that has came out. They have the that Astro Playroom that's on every PS5 that comes with it loaded default. Demon Souls got remastered. There was a ton of remasters, guys, where they threw the new Unreal Engine graphics on it and made games like Dead Space. And along with new games like the Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor Series. So fun. Tons of games. They got Arc Raiders out now. All these new Call of Duties, Battlefields out. The graphics are booming, and the gameplay is feeling more realistic than ever. They even added a trigger function on the PS5, guys. So, like, on certain games, whether you're drawing a bow or pulling the trigger of a gun, you'll feel the tension, or you're driving a car game, you'll feel the tension in the brakes. The R2 and L2 have that tension because for years, PS2 didn't have it. PS3 did. PS4 definitely had it. PS5 implemented it where they had that free form. They didn't. You remember the PS2, R2, and L2? The buttons were like the L1. You had to push in. There was that no give. Xbox had that back in the day, but they were like thin buttons. So if you had big old hands, I don't know. If you had little small hands, it was hard to reach them. With the Xbox controller, I have small hands, guys. It was like, how do I control this? So it was definitely difficult to play Xbox, which I did not enjoy. But They added that trigger function so you feel the pressure. Add a layer of realism, guys. And it's definitely fun. And we're due a PlayStation 6. Sony's announced it in 2027. Probably, I would say later in 2027. But the PS6 is coming. I haven't done a whole lot of research on it because I've been having fun content creating and making Fortnite videos and mental health videos. And not to mention, guys, they come out with the PSPs. Remember those? The PSP, the PSP 2000, the 3000, the PS Vita. They even had it. They had the PlayStation VR where they did it with Skyrim. Remember, guys? If any of you played that, I'm envious. I'm envious of you because I didn't get to play it. I never took the time to buy the virtual reality headset. Because the Oculus had their own headset and stuff. The PlayStation one looked really nice and fun, looked comfortable even to wear. And more, guys. They had where they could connect to your phone, like side controllers. And they are coming out with a device. I don't know when, but it's basically going to be like the PlayStation controllers. But there's going to be like a screen in between. So it's kind of going to be a mix between like the PSP and the PS Vita, but with controller handles and buttons and stuff to give it a more realistic feel, like you're at home, but with a screen integrated into it. So that's going to be fun. That's definitely going to be fun. I can't wait to see what that looks like and the price tag that comes along with it. But yeah, so that's the evolution of PlayStation, guys, and they keep developing, man. They keep pushing the envelope. I don't care what Microsoft says, guys. They're not doing as much as they're actually trying to keep up with Sony. The Japanese are way ahead of us in technology, medicine, I would even say, and just science in general. We have great scientists in the United States, but nothing against them. The Japanese, the South Koreans, they're all doing the most, guys. And shout out to Sony, man. One day maybe I'll get to talk to one of the vice presidents, maybe not. If not, I'll admire from afar, guys. I appreciate you guys for stopping and watching this podcast or listening if you're driving down the road and you wanted to hop on and listen to me talk and jabber about the PlayStation, the evolution of the PlayStation, and where it will be, man. Eventually, the graphics are going to have to get so good that you won't be able to tell it apart from looking away from the TV and seeing real life and going back and be like, hey, the game looks just like, another place, like looking through a window or something. But do you have anything to add? No, this is not her forte. I will say that. This is not her forte. It was mine growing up. I've never owned an Xbox. Like I said, my cousin did. He was the Xbox guy. I was the PlayStation guy. And yeah, it's just been a fun ride, man. And plus, ABXY versus Shapes, man. Come on. That's so much easier to remember than XYAB. Come on, man. My ABC. No, it's ABXY. Screw that. PlayStation makes it simple, guys. Look at that. They make it with shapes. Triangle, circle, X, square, baby. Appreciate you guys for watching. Be sure to check my thriller fiction novels out in the description below, like I mentioned in the beginning of the episode. Be sure to read the synopsises. You might be surprised. You might enjoy my books. You might even send me an email or a message on one of my social media accounts saying, hey, write some more books. I'd love to read more of your stuff. Be sure to check them out. I appreciate you guys. I will see you guys in the next podcast. Appreciate y'all. You already know O2 does the most. Let's go.